In today's video, we'll be seeing how to optimize the digital workflow using the Neodent Tibase. The first step would involve scanning. The scans are then imported into the designing software, where you choose the correct components from the library and design the restoration. Once the restoration is designed, it is then milled. In case it's a zirconia restoration, it is then sintered, stained and glazed, cemented to the tie base, and then the restoration is seated in the patient's mouth. So let's see the digital workflow using the Neodent Tibase. In this clinical case, where there is a missing tooth and it has been restored with a tie base and a screw retained crown. The crown is not a hybrid crown which is in two parts. It's a single crown on the tie base. So let's first look at what is a tie base and how it connects to the Neodent implant. So if you split open the implant, you'd see the connection. The bottom is the indexation part, which allows change in different ways. You could change the tie base and you could fit it in different ways using the indexation. It also has a 16-degree Morse taper and a long conical stable connection. There is a platform switch from the implant to the abutment. This reduces the stress and also reduces the marginal bone loss. There is a universal screwdriver which is used for all the screws for the different abutments. The screwdriver remains the same. Also, there is piece of unlocking due to the disengagement, so it will unlock when needed. All the implants have the same common prosthetic platform, which is 3.0 in diameter, and all the tie bases can be used either with the 3.5, 3.75, 4, 4.3 implant. In the tie bases, you have a lot of variety, including different heights, different widths, and different gingival heights. So the Neodent Tibase has a lot of variety according to the different clinical indications. So the gingival height can range from 0.8 to 1.5 to 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. That is the gingival height. The tie base is also available in different widths according to the emergence of the tooth. So the different widths could be 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6.5. And you have different lengths. That is, it could be 4 millimeter or a 6 millimeter tie base. Now the first step would involve scanning using the scan body. This scan body can be used for both the conical tie bases, which are used for bridges, as well as the normal tie base, which is used for single unit restorations. So you would scan the upper jaw, the lower jaw, and do a bite scan. In this patient, we are restoring the 2.4, but we are also doing a conventional bridge 3 unit, and we are doing an implant supported bridge in the lower posterior region. So once the scanning is done, you then go to the designing software. In the designing software, you would choose the tooth that you need to be replaced. That is, you will choose the 2.4. You will then also choose the material with which you're going to replace it, and you're going to choose anatomic crown. Here we are doing a scan body scan because that's different from the upper scan. You could also do scan body in the main scan if you had done just one scan. Once you've done that, you could then import all the files, the lower, upper, and the scan body scan into the designing software. Once the files are loaded, you make sure that it's facing you and you select it when it's facing you. The next step would be choosing from the library. So you have already downloaded the library. After that, you choose the Neodent Grand Morse. You choose 4.5 and the gingival height is 0.8. So you're using a 4.5, not 8 Tibase. Then you'd match it to the scan body. Once the best fit matching is done, the Tibase replaces the scan body. Now I'll also explain to you that if you needed to choose a different Tibase, you could do that from the library. In this indication, it would be appropriate to use a 4.5, 0.8 gingival height. So this is the gingival height and that is the width of the Tibase. Now from the library, you could also choose, for example, a 4.5, 3.5. That means the gingival height is 3.5. If the gingival height is 3.5, what happens is the collar is now visible above the gingival margin. So it will be a visible black line once you fit the restoration. So you need to choose a Tibase height slightly lower than the existing gingival height. So that's why we have chosen in this case 0.8. And 4.5 will allow you to give a good emergence profile for the premolar tooth in this case. Also, when you choose, if you choose a greater height or you choose a 6 mm, it will interfere with the opposing dentition. So you need to choose the appropriate gingival height as well as the appropriate chimney height according to your clinical case. Once the Tibase is chosen, you will then mark out the emergence profile. So you could either draw it or you could allow it to be detected. The emergence profile will be according to the profile of the gum margin that you have. Once you mark out the emergence profile, the next would be choosing the correct tooth from the library. So you choose the correct tooth and do a tooth placement. You can rotate the tooth, scale the tooth, shift the tooth to the right position, which would be aesthetically and functionally accurate. So once the tooth placement is done in the right position, the next step would be doing the abutment bottom. So from the emergence profile to the tooth placement, the abutment bottoms will allow you to give a good emergence profile. This could be done by dragging to allow it to create an appropriate emergence profile for that tooth. The emergence profile should be such that it supports the gingiva. If it is too large, it will tend to push the gingiva and the buccal gingiva will collapse. If the emergence profile is too narrow, there would appear like an unsupported gingival area or like an undercut there. So create the correct emergence profile. Once the appropriate emergence profile is done, then you go to the next step where the abutment bottoms, the emergence profile and the tooth placement is all merged to give you the merged restoration. You could also still modify the final merged restoration by freeforming it. So you can add, subtract or drag it by freeforming. Once you've completed the restoration, what you would then have is your final monolithic restoration on the Tibase. So here we have designed it as a single unit restoration. You could also break up the restoration by doing just the custom abutment and then the crown on top of the custom abutment. Here we have designed it as a single crown, a screw retained single crown on the Tibase. So it would appear like a screw retained single crown on the Tibase. After completing the restoration, it is then sent out for milling, glazing, sintering, and finally bonded to the tip base and placed in the patient's mouth. Here you see the implant restoration. It is seamlessly integrated, very harmonious to the gingival architecture and to the adjacent teeth as well as the antagonist, and a very beautiful and a pleasing final appearance. Thank you. I hope you liked it and I hope it was very, very useful to you.